times we have to make that.
I'm on it.
Okay.
Climate change. Setting off my motherfucking fire
I
alarm
literally
for no
was
reason.
like, we were. Okay, we're back. Okay, we're back. We're back. All right, so we're gonna do another one of our fun games where we see if we agree or disagree.
Agree or disagree?
All right.
I don't know.
So the topic is, I asked our trusty friend Chat GPT,
Zabby.
Zaddy Chatty. That was Pete. We asked Zaddy Chatty to please give us some controversial statements related to climate change and mental health, because that's what we're talking about today. And boy, did it not disappoint. Zaddy Chatty knows exactly what to do. Okay, so the first statement that I'm going to read is this. Addressing climate change should take precedence over mental health concerns, even if it means implementing drastic measures that may negatively affect people's mental health in the short term.
Oh, fuck.
That's a good one. Want me to read it again?
No.
Okay.
Oh, well, you could read it again.
Okay.
For those listening.
Okay, so
Because I need to think anyway.
the statement is, addressing climate change should take precedence over mental health concerns, even if it means implementing drastic measures that may negatively affect people's mental health in the short term.
I'm ready.
Okay. Agree or disagree?
Are we flipping at the same time?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Agree.
Agree! Agree! I was really going back and forth on this, but you go first since I read the question. What are your thoughts?
The reason why I came to agree is because sometimes we have to make hard decisions in order to get to a better end.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we don't fix the climate situation, none of us will be here anyways.
Exactly. Good point. Yeah. I was thinking about, like in COVID, there were lots of drastic measures we had to take during the height of COVID that had, some short-term, maybe some longer-term consequences on like our economy. Certainly mental health was one of the things, right? We had to isolate. Continues to be one of the things. But like in the height of COVID, the fact that we had to like be separate from one another, that isolation causes a strain on our mental health, but we needed to do that in order to save lives, right? So like sometimes we have to make that.
I'm on it.
Okay.
Climate change. Setting off my motherfucking fire alarm
I literally
for no
was
reason.
like, we were literally just talking about like fires for no reason.
It's because the temperature in my house is hot, cold, muggy.
Yeah.
My stupid thing keeps saying, your house may be too humid. I'm like, thanks, Captain Obvious. I have my dehumidifier going around the clock.
Oh
my
my
AC's
gosh.
on. Like, what do you want me to do about it?
It's so crazy. How many times have we said this year? It's like hot but cold.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so true.
I'm like, it's cold and it's so humid.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see.
All right, Chatty Zaddy.
Chatty Zaddy, let's see what you say.
That killed me.
Okay, climate change activism and the constant stream of apocalyptic climate news contribute to anxiety and depression rather than solving the problem. So that, again, for those at home, climate change activism and the constant stream of apocalyptic climate news contribute to anxiety and depression rather than solving the problem.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
1, 2, 3. Disagree.
I agree. Of course. We're always going to have one. There's always going to be one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You want to go first? Why you
Sure.
disagree? Okay.
We have to have activism to
Yeah.
raise the alarms and knowledge and make people aware that all this shit is going on.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of like apocalyptic, was it news?
Yeah.
Listen, all I have to say is when it comes to the media,
Yeah.
all bets are off. Like,
Right.
I personally don't feel that much trust or faith in what I'm seeing on the news.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like one day it's apocalyptic and the next day it's like, everything's great. It's
Yeah.
fine. By
Yeah.
the way, don't worry.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. I said agree because I feel like, kind of in line with the conversation we had earlier in terms of, you know, if you want people to hear you, there's a certain way to say things, right? Like, and I think that sometimes activists mean really well, but oftentimes their emotions drive their actions and they end up like alienating people rather than helping them to understand like the critical things that they're trying to convey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that gets really amplified with the news. Like, I just feel like the way that news is delivered is often in a sensational manner because, again, like you said before, like it's like we're following the money, right? Like the news, they need viewership, and so they need the title of the article to be sensationalized so that people click on it, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So I feel like they are directly playing into our anxieties with the way that they deliver information in order to keep us, like, you know, if you understand the psychology of anxiety, you know that part of it is that like it's like survival. And so you feel like you need to get that news in order to be in a good position to be alive, right? Like that's what it kind of comes down to. So I just feel like activism as a concept is great, but the way that it happens, especially like around climate change, like I feel like what I see in the news on activists is activists being angry, they're shouting, they're like, you know, they're yelling at politicians, which I get, like we got to get their attention somehow. But I think, you know, for somebody who may not be as educated on the matter, it's not like an open invite to like come and learn more. If that makes sense.
I feel like I agree with you about the news thing. I think we basically said the same thing on the news situation.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I think of an activist, the picture of an activist to me isn't like this wildly shouting, like person that's just saying all kinds of things to incite.
Yeah.
I feel like I think more of like the people that we talked about, like Greta and Jane Fonda, that are like leading an effort. Right. But I do think that when you're an activist, you are definitely going to piss people off along the way.
Right.
But, you know, I always feel like quiet women don't make history. So,
true.
like, we don't get anything done. Like, we don't change anything by, like, going along with what's already standing and not working.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
You know? But I definitely agree, like, when you get a huge crowd of people who are just, like, shouting things out and have signs that say ridiculous things and whatever, like, I guess technically they are activists.
I think they would call themselves activists if you ask them.
To me, I feel like that's, you're not getting at anything.
Yeah.
I feel more like the folks who are like leading an effort and there's a particular message to like something that they're doing this day, you know, and they're like making public statements. That to me is like good activism.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's like that good trouble, right?
Yeah,
That you
yeah.
that you have to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. So,
Chatty Zaddy.
Chatty Zaddy, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Climate change policies often ignore the mental health consequences of job loss in fossil fuel industries, undermining the well-being of affected communities.
1, 2, 3. Agree.
Yeah. That's a tough one. It's like a unintended consequence, kind of like, yeah.
I don't think it's that unintended.
So like I hear that as like when there's a policy that goes into place that says we're not gonna use gasoline anymore for this particular industry. Instead, we're gonna use some other fuel source.
Mm-hmm.
That the people that were in that previous industry are no longer like have jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But you feel like that's like
Intentional.
Interesting.
Yeah, I feel like that it's similar to AI, right? Like where like what can we replace with AI?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like how are we more productive? How do we get more done?
Yeah.
And that there are a lot of large companies that are constantly assessing like how do you reduce cost?
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
I think for larger corporations, like the first place that they go are people.
It's true.
People cost organizations and companies a lot of money, like salaries, benefits, you know, liability, like all of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So I think if they can find a better answer and then that also decreases workforce, then that's a win-win.
Yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately,
I know it really stinks, and it's like, yeah, it's so true. A lot of these industries that are directly contributing to climate change, you know, fixing that would probably mean like removing the human, right? So like, like I was watching a TikTok the other day, and this woman was waiting for a robot to deliver her Uber Eats order, right? And it's like, that's way better for the environment, right? Like that's not a gasoline powered vehicle. That's not like, but that also means like a person who would typically be delivering that order is out of a job at this point. So
yeah, it's gonna be wild when Amazon releases the drones.
Release the drones.
Drones and packages are gonna be flying everywhere. It's gonna be mayhem.
I don't understand. It's gonna take one time for a drone to decapitate somebody in broad daylight for that whole situation.
That's what you think it will end it? Amazon will be like, "What's your number? Here you go. Here's the check.
Here's your check, family. Just shh.
It's a non-disclosure agreement. Non-disclosure.
True that.
Sweet.
It's probably happened already. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We probably have time for one more.
All right. Let's see. What else you got, Zaddy? I'm gonna say more. Give me more.
Give me more.
Oh. Oh, it's a good one. Oh, there's so many good ones. Oh! I don't know which one to pick. Shit. We don't need a part 2. All right. Damn, these are good. Okay. Yeah.
You're gonna have to cut out all this time of Diana laughing at herself.
All right, children and young adults. Since we haven't talked about the kids for a little bit.
The kids.
Children. Do I want to use that one? Children and young adults are being indoctrinated with climate change anxiety through education and media, which may lead to a generation of mentally fragile individuals.
Disagree.
Children and young adults are being
You don't need to read that again.
indoctrinated. I wish wish there was a in-betweener. Because I agree and disagree.
In-betweener wiener?
An in-betweener. Because I believe...
You said this last time. Just
I know.
Pick a side.
Okay.
Pick a side!
I'm going to say agree because I already... You have the disagree side down. So you can say what you want to say about that. And then I'll say why I kind of sort of agree a little bit.
First of all, get real worried when people start throwing around the word indoctrinated. That's
me too.
Number one.
Me too. Okay.
And I don't think that... I think the problem for me in that is all of this that we've been talking about is impacting people's mental health.
Right.
But to say that this is going to create a generation of people who are mentally fragile, like, hard disagree.
Yeah.
And also, this just brings up for me the other constant problem that we're talking about the fact that people know this is going to impact people's mental health, and they're just like, they're going to be fragile, instead of being like, this is going to impact people's mental health, so we need to do something about it now.
Let's build resilience.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, let's implement a plan. Let's start, like, thinking about it. Like we talked about, nobody's really planning for mental health in, like, climate change planning.
Right.
It's like, we need to do all of that.
Yeah.
In order to make sure that people are able to deal with and cope with whatever happens. It's not just climate change. It's just like...
Yeah, I agree. I agree on those points. And I also feel like there's, I have this, like, overarching feeling about, like, we live in a world full of, like, complaints all the time and, like identifying problems, and similar to what you're saying, like, we're not always talking about solutions. Like, it's constant, like, problems and complaining and, like, let's find a diagnosis and, like, a quick fix to that, medication. And I think that we don't talk enough about resilience, and we don't talk enough about, like, how to overcome, like I think, when we talk about mental health challenges, there's also, like, the other side of the conversation, which is, like, solutions to those challenges, not just talking about the problem. And so I feel like a lot of times, and again, this could just be because of how, and this is where the indoctrination aspect comes in for me, because we know that, like, the things that we consume affect us, right? We've talked about that on the podcast in multiple ways. And, like, the younger generation, they're on social media, they're, like, seeing a lot of content around what the problem is and who to be mad at and who to blame. And I don't feel like there's an equal amount of, like, here's what to do about it. Here's how you yourself can foster your own resilience. Here's how we can foster resilience as a community. And so, like, I do think in that way, like, we're setting people up for failure, right? Like, it's not ingrained in our culture to talk about strengths, right? Like, we battle this in the mental health field all the time. Like, we're, constantly talking about a family's deficiencies and not talking about the amazing strengths that they have that could help to offset those if we just think about it in a creative way. And so, yeah, that's why I'm, like, kind of in the middle with it, because I feel like as concepts, these things are not, like, creating mentally fragile human beings, but in practice, the way that we talk about things and the way that content is, like, rolled out and consumed, it's not, like, strengths based. It's not fostering resilience. It's like, poor me. It's like, oh my God, like, look what the old people did to our planet. Like, let's cry about it, versus, like, what are we going to do to, like, make a change? And there are some people, like those activists, Jane Fonda, Greta, like, there are people on this planet who are, like, actively doing the things, but we're not seeing that in our face. Like, we're just seeing the, like, lack.
Yeah.
That, like,
I think that's why,
energy.
like, and we've talked about this in other podcasts, we need to teach everyone, not just younger generations how to make their social media serve them.
Right.
Right? Like, I talked about in our podcast episode about this, that I intentionally followed a bunch of different accounts about recycling.
Right.
So I'm learning new things all the time.
Right.
And I think that's something that is it's really easy to like click a follow, or you don't even really have to click follow. Like, if you watch enough of somebody's content, 3 or 4 of their videos or reels or something, it's going to start coming up in your feed. So I think, that's just something that all people need to be more aware of. Like, what are you watching?
What are you consuming?
What is like all of a sudden, like, I was looking at some hair tutorials, which like usually I don't watch those. I forget why I was doing it. But anyways, for the next week, it was like hair tutorials.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even follow one hair tutorial account.
I literally, on nail day, I'm like, I search for nails, and then for like a month later, it's like all nails on my Instagram.
Exactly. So but I think people have to make that work for them.
Right.
Yeah. What a wild situation.
I know.
It's wild like the weather.
Wild weather. Wild weather. Wet and wild.
Wet and wild.
Remember that brand? Is that still a thing?
Which brand?
Wet and Wild.
There's a few different Wet and Wild brands. Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking nail polish. Lip smacker.
Okay. Okay.
Did you know black girls can blush?
Why are you currently hot?
Oh, God. It's time to end it.
Wowzers.
It's time to end it.
It's time to wrap it up before you slide right off of your chair.
Wrap it up.